Golden Kappa train. Golden Kappa train. Everyone, hurry up. We have to achieve the Golden Kappa train. Does anyone know what it does? I know it's an emote. Do we get the emote? Not sure. It's in the top right corner. It says Golden Kappa train. I don't know. Well, anyways. All right, that was enough. How are you guys? Golden Kappa lost its aura. Damn. So how are you all? What you got in store for us, Corey? We got a big one. Please fill out the form if you want. I'm just gonna close it now, to be honest. You can unpin it, Katie, because I already kind of did all the tabulations and stuff, and like, I think most people kind of voted. So I'll give you guys another minute, maybe. Nah, anyone doing the form right now, you can get it in. I'm going to count down from 10. You got to make some quick choices. Well, you had Keisha as a one-time player. Honestly, that's a mistake, but like, am I wrong? I made a couple mistakes on this, okay? I made a couple mistakes. All right, I'm closing the form. If I know how to close it. Accepting responses, no more. Okay. Brady the GOAT. Yes, currently. Your name should be on there along with America. Y'all just want the results to be ruined.
I gotta show you something after the stream, remind me.
Okay. Leave yourself a note.
I'll forget.
One more minute, please. Hoedown, showdown. You snooze, you lose. This is going to be a lesson that I want you to take forward with you in life. Also, there's 500 responses. I don't think yours is going to turn the tides. Please reopen. All right. I'm a softie. I'll reopen it. Quick. It's reopened. Go. Once you say you're done, I'm closing it again. Hoedown, showdown. Take this as a lesson. Move with kindness. Lead with kindness. That's the phrase, right? Vince trying to guilt trip Lauren into going on the block. I don't say I respect it. Like, I've given up the Vince is one of the... Okay. Is Vince one of the better players on the cast? I still think he is, but I do think he's terrible. Like, I don't think he's like, there's really much redeeming qualities about him. It's telling me it's closed. It says it's accepting responses for me, so maybe just refresh or maybe it's just cooked. But I do think Vince is like, here's the thing. Who on the season is clearly better than Vince? I'd be willing to accept Rachel, of course, I believe that. I'd be willing to accept Ashley. I'd be willing to accept Morgan. Then it gets kind of tough. Like, I'm not accepting Ava. I'm not accepting Kelly. I'm not accepting Keanu. Lauren is tight, but I think I prefer Vince. Will, I'm picking Vince over Will every single time. I'm sorry. I think if Vince and Will play 1,000 seasons, Vince wins substantially more. Lauren and Vince, I think, is pretty close. I think I would lean Lauren, but I think it's... Like, Lauren just not being able to talk is such a bad thing. And she's able to talk to a lot of people. Okay, it's just like... Yeah. Wait, do we have noms yet, by the way? Chat? I'd love Vince if he stood on business once. No, that'd be out of character. I like him. I want him to lean further into whatever the fuck he's doing. You know what I mean? Still no? Jesus. Lauren's putting her foot down with Vince, who wants to nom her. Vince is so stupid. Like, okay, let me... we'll do the quick BB27 talk before we dive into this little presentation I got. But let's be very clear. Every single player who doesn't target Keanu is dumb. That's just the game at this point. It is illogical and stupid to target any single other person than Keanu. And if Vince got rid of Keanu, it would still be a rough spot for him. There'd still be Lauren, Ava, and Kelly. It doesn't matter. It's a binary decision of You need to take out Keanu when you have the chance. You just have to. The only person who I think maybe could get away with not doing it is Kelly. Maybe Kelly just wants to take him out at the final 3, and that's like her big move, and maybe she could beat someone. I guess for Kelly, I'm saying she doesn't really have a chance of winning anyways, and Keanu might be able to get her to second place money. I could see that. Lauren's a comp beast too. There's levels to this. Mini is drastic levels to this. Keanu and Lauren are not in the same stratosphere. But I think Lauren's the second best at comps, and then probably Vince and Morgan after that. Keanu's anti-Kelly now. Yeah, but, like, what should Keanu do? You know, like, shouldn't target Kelly. What do you think about the future of Blockbuster and BB? I'm sure we have the same opinion, Dwight. Like, I feel like you and I are usually on the same page about these things. They should do it till Final 5 next year. It's just so annoying that my favorites could be taken out by votes. Blah. No, I think it could work at the final, till the final 11, I think is the move. I think if it stops at the final 11, it's perfect. If it goes till the final 9, like ends at the final 10, I think that's okay. Golden Kappa for 24 hours, everyone. We've done it. I no longer have to stream. The goal's been accomplished. Thank you guys so much for watching. Are any of the homies live that I can raid? If Vince doesn't put Lauren, he'd lose Morgan and Keanu. He doesn't have Keanu, and he wouldn't lose Morgan. Like, all he has to do is put his foot down and say, Morgan, look, Lauren's a problem. I'm going to make sure she doesn't target you. I fucked up last time. That was on me. It's my bad. But, like, Lauren, putting her up just doesn't make sense, right? Like, she's going to protect me, and she kept me safe here, and I kept her safe. Like, it doesn't make sense. For a renom, I think it's a definite possibility. You know what I mean? And then if you need a renom, you do it again later. But, like, I'm not talking about the challenge, no, man. I haven't been watching, so I don't want to pretend. Morgan will not let it go if he doesn't do it. What is she gonna do? Target him? Like what is she gonna do? Really? That's what's gonna happen? And like, this is all Vince's fault. He's established himself as a pushover, so people feel like they can push over. Not hug him, cuddle with him less. See, that's the problem, is the priorities. Like, America was not thrilled with me when I was campaigning hard for the veto. She was not thrilled with me. But you still got to do it. We had a bit of a cold war because what are you going to do? Sometimes you got to do the thing. But I will say, like, I think I'm enjoying Vince more and more the further he leans into this. Not character, too, he is. But, like, it's just so ridiculous. It's such, like, it really does read as like a caricature, not like a real person. I don't find it particularly fun to watch, but I do think it's kind of funny. So, anywho, I think if Keanu survives this week, final 6, like it's getting hard to take Keanu out. He just doesn't have that much competition, and if like these comps are in any way physical, in any way even skill based or like a puzzle, he just has an advantage. I think he was cast as a mastermind. Another attempt at a Paul. And he just had a very slow breakdown, the way BB can make people break down. I think Vince is like a McRae Turner casting, kind of. He is a bit of a fan. I think every season they cast people who they think are the winner. I think on our season they cast Cameron as the theoretical winner. I think on 26, I think Chelsea was in there. I think Brooklyn was in there. I think like some of the people who were just like, they seem pretty normal. How'd they get on the show? I think is always like an indicator of that's who the show thinks has a good shot. And I think Vince, especially with his mannerisms, how chill he is. And like in the DR, he's not super animated. He's not like a Quinn. You know what I mean? I think Vince probably was cast to be like a winner. You know? I saw the Danganronpa 2 announcement, Jerry. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Vince just begging for Lauren to let him put her up. Good for Lauren, standing on business for once. I never knew how McRae would have played without Amanda. I think McRae would be pretty good. I don't think McRae's a bad player. But Mario Tennis looked good. Aces was pretty fun. I like Mario Tennis Aces. Who's been more scared of things this season, Lauren or Vince? It's Vince. It's not close. Like, Lauren's very scared, but she ultimately does the thing usually. The only time she screwed up was putting up Adrian. But otherwise, she, like, uses the veto on Vince and, like, generally does what she's supposed to do. Puts up Keanu. Thoughts on the Clippers situation? I just don't care that much. Like, I think the Clippers should be penalized because they broke a rule and they were caught. But, like, what? They're siphoning money to Kawhi through, like, other... It's fine. Like, I don't care. But they should be punished, right? I don't think they're going to punish him very strictly. I think they would love to sweep it under the rug. How often do you think the person cast to win actually wins? More often than people who are cast as, like, zany characters. But still not likely. There's 16 people and a ton of luck. And some people just suck. Cameron was a terrible player, right? I agree, Sydney. What do you think players need to do in the final stretch to win? Win competitions and make sure your allies win competitions? Or just, have an end game constructed of your allies. Like, Chelsea didn't need to win all those comps, but it sure helped. Who's the last zany character to win? Probably Josh. I think Josh. Were you cast to win? I was a very clear archetype. I was not cast to win. Okay, are you guys ready to talk about Mount Rushmore? And we're not talking about actual Mount Rushmore. We don't like Mount Rushmore. That's on stolen land. But our Mount Rushmores are on unstolen land. It's actually in my backyard. So, if anyone was concerned about that aspect of the stream, fear not. There's no reason to. So, let's chat about it. What are we doing today? So, today we're talking about Big Brother Mount Rushmores. What gave me the idea for this stream was the one and only Rachel O'Reilly. I think when she got evicted, there was a lot of, commiserating, but also, like, celebrating of Rachel, saying that she's on the Mount Rushmore of Big Brother. And it got me thinking, like, is she? Rachel's about as iconic as they come, but, like, is she really one of the 4 most iconic, biggest characters, players in the show's history? We'll see. I made that determination. So, I made a Google form. Some of you saw it yesterday on stream. Some of you answered it on Twitter. Some of you answered it the past couple of minutes of stream. Of several categories to make several Mount Rushmores. I filled it out myself. I also made my own personal Mount Rushmores that I'll show you all, and we'll see the differences between the community-based one and the one that I have made. We'll see how much my takes align with the masses. There was about 500 respondents. I believe at the time where I recorded the data, it was like 400 and something. So, like, it's a pretty big sample size. Just for full, what was the word, clarity. I posted this on Twitter, so that might influence kind of, what audience you're receiving there. If I posted this on Facebook, I think we get very different results. This is on Twitter and my stream. So these are the 2 places. Clarity. Transparency is the much more accurate word, absolutely. So, without further ado, I think we just dive into this first category. Actually, before that, let's talk about, the criteria I used to determine my vote. So, ultimately, the criteria is vibes-based. Pick who you want. For me, it was a combination of, like, how iconic you are, how much have you meant to the show, how much have you progressed the game and the show as a concept, how good of a player you are, how fun are you in the DR. It really is just a combination of everything. I think the most important factor is, like, iconicness and impact. Like, those are my main 2. Does that make sense? Okay. So that leads us to our first. It's a rich tapestry, exactly. Old school. So first, I'm going to be revealing my Mount Rushmore. Now, the order in which I placed these figures on Mount Rushmore is also the order in which I think they deserve to be on it. So the first name you see is going to be the first name that came to mind. They're an obvious lock, no problems. And then the 4th one is the one who barely scraped in. So, for all intents and purposes, or for the purposes of this stream, Old School is season 1 through season 7. I think I had about 8 players on the ballot. At the end, you'll see what the ballot was. I'll have the full spreadsheet of the stats. So I think starting with old school, the number one pick on the board is entirely unambiguous. I think it's one of the most obvious choices, perhaps the most obvious choice in this entire Google form. Dr. Will. Obviously, it's a 7-season sample. He was on 2 of those seasons. He made it to the end game both times. Essentially the first winner of Big Brother, at least in a modern capacity. In season 7, I think is a much more impressive season. I think that, in my opinion, is the best Big Brother season of all time. I think most people would have it top 2 or 3 at least. And Will, not only did he invent how to play Big Brother, he also invented how to be in the diary room in Big Brother. He invented how to be this big character. And he really embraced villainy in a way that I think is only comparable to Richard Hatch. So I think Dr. Will is so fucking obvious. He's the face of Big Brother, some would say, to this very day, but at least at this time, I think it was unanimous. He's the face of Big Brother. So, that takes me to our second addition to the old school Mount Rushmore. Again, I think this one is pretty obvious as well. Janelle. Janelle was on 2 of the 4 best seasons in Big Brother history, and they were both in this date range. Season 6 and Season 7 are 2 of the most iconic seasons of the show. She is by far the most iconic character in Season 6. And Season 7, look, I think Dr. Will is basically the main character, but Janelle is main character number 2. They're 1A and 1B. She makes it to Final 3 both times, has the entire fan base rooting for her the entire time, and she falls a tiny bit short. It's super heartbreaking. We see her a few more times, but really 6 and 7 are Janelle's seasons. It's very funny. I think when you look back at Big Brother history, the seasons that are universally considered to be like elite, top 3, 4 seasons. Season 10, 14, 6, 7. And every single season has Janelle, Will, or Dan. A lot of them have multiple of those people. It kind of shows that when you have like the best player and the best character and the most dynamic personality run the game and make it to the end game in all these seasons, you're going to have pretty good seasons. Thank you, Jerry, for the 5 gifted subs. I guess you liked my first 2 picks. I don't want you to toot my horn too much. I mean, these are pretty elementary picks here. Janelle did ever haters in the fandom. I mean, look, I was 3 years old, so I don't want to. I couldn't tell you. But shout outs to Janelle. I mean, look, I've met Janelle, very nice person. Even like if I don't agree with her takes online, I still find myself rooting for her every time I watch one of these seasons back, 6 and 7. Which leads us to the third member. I think the third old school person is also incredibly obvious. I think there's a clear top 3 and then a gap after that. It's Danielle Reyes. I think Dr. Will often gets credited with like making Big Brother strategy and being the godfather of the whole thing. I think Danielle Reyes deserves a good amount of credit too. In terms of like playing a modern game of Big Brother, Danielle Reyes is the one who created that. Will really created like a bare bones version of just like lying and using persuasion and stuff like that. Danielle played Big Brother. Obviously, it was the first season with the veto, even if it worked a little bit weird. She ends up as a runner-up, and then she comes back for All-Stars and makes a very good run. It's very like Jeremy Collins, Winners at War. Like, she never had a ton of power. It was a very scrappy game. Ending up going on Erica's HOH is pretty embarrassing. But, like, she's a huge figure on the season. She makes a good run, and Season 3 is the season of Danielle, with a little bit of side of Jason. But all 3 of these players were in the final 6 in All-Stars at least. They were all final 3 at least of their original seasons. I think when you're evaluating eras like this, having 2 seasons of the 6-season era is a pretty big deal. I'm not counting Season 1, because come on. So shout outs to Danielle Reyes. One of the GOATs for sure. So glad we've gotten to see her more on our screens recently. Okay. Now this 4th spot is very difficult for me. I think there's only 2 names that you can really consider. I feel very strong about my choice, and I also feel extremely confident that many of you will disagree, because in my 4th spot, look, we talked about Kings and Queens, Ava Max, Women empowerment, I have Mike Boogie. It's Mike Boogie. Look, I think you could argue Boogie or June. I don't think Allison really has an argument. I think Kaser is so iconic. I could see it, but I just think it's not. Boogie and Will were such a big deal. And All-Stars is the best season of the show. Boogie's the winner. I think Boogie's game in All-Stars is severely underrated. I think Will does a lot of the heavy lifting, but Boogie's responsible for a lot of the relationships, a lot of the comps that they needed to win. He pulled out. He gets the coup d'etat. Like, again, it's not super important about talking about game, right? Like, his game being good is not really what puts him on this list. It's honestly the fact that he's half of Chilltown. And Chilltown, to this day, is the most iconic alliance in Big Brother history. I don't think anyone will ever pass that. The Cookout is the one that, like, you can make the argument. But I do think Chilltown is on a different level in terms of, like, notoriety, especially at the time. Obviously, there's a lot of grossness with Boogie post, you know, All-Stars and just in general. But at the end of the day, it's like, what does a casual know about that? Right. Say what you about O.J. Simpson. He was a really good running back. You know what I mean? Separate the art from the artist. So that's why I have Boogie here. I think June is very influential in how she played the game, but I think season 4 and 5 just kind of get lost to history a little bit more compared to seasons 2, 3, 6, and 7. Not really June's fault. Still a good season, but like, I don't think June is as iconic, as notable as these 4 names. Even if I like June a lot more. And I think she's very funny on Twitter, too. He also debuted proposing on a finale, and he did the Richard Hatch strategy. It was crazy. June invented the floating strategy, a strategy used today. Okay. Honestly, low-key, let's talk about it. I kind of fucking hate that. I don't hate that June did it. I think that was smart. Like, she knows what she was doing. It was just like, now everyone calls people floaters when they're not floating. They're coasting, but coasting doesn't mean anything. They're just floating. Like, can we just say June played a really good social game? I think floating is a stupid term in the Big Brother community. We've talked about this before. I don't think there's any universal definition. I think people just say that shit. I have to get my phone 1 second because America might text me options for protein stuff that I have to buy. That's why you're going to text me options, babe.
Babe, you're working right now.
Anyways. Total and utter failure, guys. Okay. But yeah, like, I think June's great. Icon of the game. Let's talk about how it actually shook out. I'm not going to drag out the drama. The most votes is Will. It wasn't close. Next most was Janelle. It wasn't close. Third name, Danielle. It wasn't close. And then in that 4th spot, should come as no surprise based on what we've seen in this chat, June Song gets on the official Mount Rushmore. So fret not, you guys won this round. June, at the end of the day, in terms of one-time winners, I think she's one of the most iconic. She is very influential in determining the strategic future of the game. She's also an underrated character. She's just very funny. Her and Allison, one of the more iconic alliances of all time. So, I have no problem with this. I think June was easily the 5th person on my list, and I think 6th would have been Kaser. Now, to see how it actually shook out, I'll move myself. Dr. Will at 85% of the vote. 15% of you were bugging out. Janelle with 72, Danielle Reyes with 67, and June with a clean 36%. And then there's some write-ins. A couple of Jason guys. Shout out to Jason. But it was a pretty distinct top 4 with Kaser being that 5th option. Shockingly, Boogie got 6%. Well, I'm not surprised by that. When you make an audience vote the determining factor, or the determining factor, I think you can expect these kind of outcomes. Diane should be in there. I don't think so. I was thinking about it, but I don't think so. All right, middle school time. So middle school, for the purposes of, I just think season 5 is not that iconic, and Diane on season 5 is less iconic than like the other people on, Middle school is season 8 to season 15. I think after 16, it's a distinctive season. The casting dynamics change, and we're HD, and the vibe is different. I think 8 through 15 is a very fair, range for this middle school. Okay. So, again, I will show my rankings first. The first name on this list, one of the easiest choices of all time, Mr. Dan Giesling. Come on, it's Dan. You guys got a problem with this? Probably the face of Big Brother. I think it's him or Will. But Dan's, I think, pretty consensus best player of all time, and also probably the most fun player to watch. Maybe Will beats him there, but it's pretty close. So not a problem with that for me. The second choice gets a little bit close. There's a lot of really valid options. I think these next two categories are the most complicated, middle school and new school. But I went with Rachel. Obviously, we're not considering BB27, but even still, on Big Brother 12, she was the biggest character by a country mile. She's part of the most iconic showmance in the show's history. She comes back immediately and wins BB13. So, Rachel is not only the biggest character the show has ever seen, she's also a winner of the show. She's also in the most iconic showmance of all time. And bonus points for season 27. just her proving that, she's got it like that. So I think Rachel's a pretty easy choice here, which leads us to the third option, which I think was a little bit difficult. Third and fourth, I think were tough. Third was easier than 4, but I go Brittany. I think Brittany on season 12 is one of the better characters in Big Brother history, and then she comes back on 14, plays a strong game, and honestly, being the victim of Dan's funeral, I think elevates her standing in Big Brother history. She just has a huge role. She obviously comes back for reindeer games. We're not considering that for this, but, fun to see. She still knows how to do DRs. Brittany was just one of the most unique characters in Big Brother history, and I think certainly one of the most memorable, much more memorable than, any brigade members, or any of the newbies in 14. And now this fourth spot I found incredibly difficult to fill. There's a lot of names going through my head. Evil Dick, just in terms of literally probably a top 2 or 3 iconic winner, especially with casuals. I think you could look at Jeff Schroeder, 2-time AFP. He genuinely was the face of Big Brother for a while. Still might be to some people. Cameron's favorite player. I went with neither of them. I went with Danny Briones. And this might be a weird take. For me, Danny gets that Evil Dick bump of Danny and Dick were such a big deal. Season 8 was a really beloved season, especially amongst casuals. And then she comes back on 13 and is the main character. I mean, once she goes, it becomes Rachel, but Danny really is the story of BB13, in my opinion, the most captivating player to watch. And fortunately for her, we're not considering BB22. I just think Danny, she's so active every season she plays. She always plays a massive role. Her least active season is the season she ends up being a runner-up on. And even there, the role she plays because of her reconnecting with her dad, which is kind of icky knowing how it all pans out. But, it's one of the best Big Brother storylines throughout any season, right? Now, let's look at the poll. Actually, first we have to look at the actual results that you guys had, but I think the 3 people who were closest in consideration for me were Evil Dick, Jeff, and Andy. Andy solely because he's probably a top 5 player of all time. But we're not doing a strategic Mount Rushmore. That's a different stream. I don't think she can be on if her dad outshined her so heavily. Well, first of all, Evil Dick is Evil Dick. Like, he's going to outshine everyone. He's just going to be the main character of any season he's on, Russell Hand style. And then she comes back on 13, and she shows that she has the capacity to carry a season on her shoulders. So I just disagree with you. Okay. Middle school. Dan, come on. Rachel, come on. Now, are we going to have any parody? Brittany, okay. Are we going to see eye to eye, chat? Who do you all think was put as this fourth person? I put Danny. Do you think it ends up being Danny? Well, the next member of the Mount Rushmore is Andy Herron. I was surprised by this. I didn't think Andy would get these kinds of votes. But Andy, of course, one of the best strategic winners in the season's history, a one-time winner. I don't think he's a great character. At least he doesn't come through on the show. He obviously has a very dynamic personality if you follow him on social media. I don't hate this pick. I think Andy was certainly on the short list. I think I would even go with Evil Dick before Andy and maybe even Jeff. Obviously, I like Andy more than the two of them. But I think Danny just has that one extra season, a little bit more casual appeal. Obviously, she's still in the Big Brother mythos, you know what I mean? Andy kind of was there and gone. Season 15 is a very despised and often forgotten season for good reason. So I think Andy would be would not be on my Mount Rushmore, but he'd be very close. He'd be one of them. Let's look at the data. So again, just completely running away with it is Dan and Rachel. Brittany is a dominant third, and then it gets very, very close between Andy and Ian. But Andy sneaks through. Shout outs to Ian, though. Vince is going to do noms. All right, let me know what they are when he does them. But yeah, I think Ian literally is one of the most iconic winners, which is kind of weird for, like, the super fans who are, like, don't value his game so highly. But my dad knows more about Ian than he does about, you know, Andy or June or a ton of winners who we would rank higher than Andy. Or Ian, rather. Okay. How is Zach Rent's not on here? Because season 16 is in the next category, the Boz. This is 8 to 15. I think Ian's hurt by the idea that he only won because of Dan hate. I think it helps him. The fact that he won an iconic season sitting next to Dan. All right. New school. New school, for the purposes of this stream, is season 16 through 22. So it's the start of Derek to the end of Cody. And I thought, for me, this was by far the most difficult category. By far. But I thought the number one option, kind of by default, was pretty easy for me. Nicole Franzel. I mean, look, she was on 3 of these seasons. She wins one of them. She makes the finale on the other. I think it's so clearly Nicole. Nicole, like, good luck watching an episode of this season without Nicole in it. I think she has a great argument for being the best woman to ever play the game. I think that's what I believe. I think she has the best argument. I think there's some who you could argue, like Chelsea's probably up there. Maybe you could say June. Maybe you could say like a Vanessa. I think it's Nicole. Obviously, 16, she's a very likable character. She was beloved on 16 so much they brought her back on 18. She plays a really good game on 18, wins the season, is a massive part of the strategy as well. Comes back on 22, kind of replicates what she does in 18 to a much worse degree. In 18, she was trying to take Cory to the end to lose. In 22, she was trying to take Cody to the end and lose. But it doesn't work out for her on 22, but she still makes a very deep run and, again, is very involved in everything going on. Now she's on, you know, Big Brother Unlocked. If that doesn't show her influence, I don't know what does. Now, I think there is a player that is often compared, maybe not compared to Nicole, but thought of in the same context of Nicole. for me, the second member of the new School Rushmore. Whoa! Sorry. You guys might have gotten a look at some of my PowerPoints for school. Where are we? This one. Caught. Yeah, all my sex PowerPoints are now exposed to the world. All right. After Nicole is Paul. So, Paul's on 2 seasons, BB18, BB19, 2-time runner-up by 1 vote. Paul legitimately had an era on the show. They were like the main character for 2 seasons straight. I legitimately feel Big Brother All-Stars 3, the first person I want to see back is Paul. Maybe that's a hot take, but I think Paul, like, is such an interesting player. We've seen them play so many different ways. In BB18, they were learning as they went. Pretty flawed game. Benefited a lot from Victor coming back, but was very scrappy, was really good at comps, got to the end. Season 19, they run the entire game Boston Rob style. Still end up losing in heartbreaking fashion to Josh. But Paul is, like, legitimately the face of Big Brother for a few years there. BB19 was, I think, a maligned season, but it was a maligned season because of how dominant Paul was, and as a result, I think that season might have, like, the biggest skew in edit of any season ever. Like, Paul had Russell Hantz levels of screen time, and honestly, rightfully so. It was Paul's season. So, we got Nicole, we got Paul. I have at least 3 or 4 other people who I think deserve to be on this Mount Rushmore, and there's just not enough space. So, someone's going to get cut. But number 3 for me is Cody. So, we'll talk about in other categories later. The reason I have Cody on this list, again, he opens the era and he ends the era. He wins Big Brother All-Stars 2, one of the most dominant winning games you've ever seen. In Big Brother 16, one of the most iconic seasons of all time. He's in one of the most iconic alliances of all time. I think Cody is very clearly the face of All-Stars 2. Not to mention him and Derek are kind of the face of 16. I would give it more to Derek. There's obviously Frankie, and there's a lot going on in season 16, to be clear. But the Hitmen really are, like, elevated to a certain level in the Big Brother, like, mythos more than most other alliances. Chelltown, the Cookout, maybe the only ones that beat him. All-Stars 2 is beyond rigged. I could not disagree more. So for me, it was a very easy choice, including Cody on here. I think, first of all, I think he's the best player of this era, in my opinion. There's certainly arguments you can make for other people. Nicole, you can make an argument for. You can make an argument for Derek, right? But for me, it's Cody. He plays 2 seasons. He plays the most amount of days of anyone who played 2 seasons. Nicole beats him because of the 3rd season. But shout outs to Cody. I mean, the biggest triple threat in Big Brother history. I think in the modern day, he'd be even better, which is why I don't think he should be on another season, because I think he would do very well. Which leads us to the 4th option. Now, you guys got to understand, there's still Derek Levasseur, there's still Tyler Crispin, there's still Vanessa Russo. There's a lot of people who deserve to be on this list. There's still Josh. Someone's not making it. It's that simple. For me, I have Tyler. I just think season 20 is one of the most remembered iconic seasons of the show. It was Tyler's season top to bottom. He comes back on 22 as the fan favorite. Everyone's rooting for Tyler, at least in the casual audience. And he has a lot of super fan appeal too. People like Tyler. Obviously, he's part of an incredibly popular showmance online, even if you think there's some a little bit boring. Some people in RHAP might think they're a bit boring. It's fine. But Tyler was the face of Big Brother for a year. They barely get him to come back for 22. Everyone's rooting for him. He makes a deep run. It's obviously a messy season for a lot of reasons. It's not a great showing by Tyler, but he still gets, 6th? 7th? I think he gets 6th. I think he's one of the better players to ever play the game. He's also one of the most fun players to play the game and how he plays. He's kind of a madman. He's very active, flips votes for very little reason, but he makes it work. I think Tyler's overrated as a player. I think he has a fatal flaw, but I think skill set wise, there's very few people who are better than him. I don't think he's a boring player. I mean, week 1, he's HOH and he flips the entire house. He flips Caitlyn to get Steve out. Like he was the guy that was basically crushing ffwd every week. Brett was helping, JC was helping, but I think Tyler's gameplay being called boring is crazy. But yeah, a majority of why he's on this list is because of Big Brother 20. Vanessa on BB17, I think, is comparable to Tyler on BB20, but then Tyler does have 22, where he also is a huge player in that game. It was him versus Cody was kind of the dynamic for most of the season until Tyler implodes, which you obviously blame Tyler for, but still. Vanessa's way more entertaining than Tyler. I think she's a little bit more entertaining on 17 than Tyler is on 20, but I think it's pretty close. And then Tyler gets 22. He didn't even try in 22. He did. He ebbed and flowed in how much he tried. I was locked into BB22. Don't quiz me on BB22. I can tell you some stuff. He's pulling in David as an ally. He fully took Enzo away from Cody for a bit. He's trying to work with Janelle and Kaser. They just keep shutting him down. Tyler is pretty good. I think, like, in a vacuum, Tyler is better than Cody, but the resumes are the resumes. Tyler running out of gas both seasons is just a problem. You can't be doing that. I'm not choosing between Vanessa and Tyler. They're both on mine. I think a lot of people would cut Cody, and I would understand that. But again, this is a very, very tough one. But let's see what the audience landed on. So, I don't think anything's obvious here. I think legitimately you could have a whole other 4 players on this list. But for the number 1 pick for the new school was Derek. That shocked me. I threw this shit on Twitter, and Derek won the vote. And I think it's fair. I mean, Derek, I think, is legitimately one of the most iconic winners of the show. You could argue top 5. Dan's more iconic. Will's more iconic. After that, Taylor, maybe. You could argue Derek, too. I think Derek played, in my opinion, the best game of Big Brother of all time. It's pretty boring the way he played. I don't like his strategy of just gathering up all the guys and winning the comp. It's lame. But I think he has the most flawless game of all time, in my opinion. And he really did, like, change how Big Brother was played. For the worse in terms of entertainment value, but he was trying to win the money. I don't blame him. So, iconic, not game-wise. Derek's iconic. I don't know what... He's not Iconica, Rachel. Like, he's not that type of iconic. But Derek is a face of Big Brother. I think he's thought of as a Pantheon winner. His name comes up in all these kinds of debates and conversations and everything.
The one thing I will say is I have not seen a single Derek Levasseur fan cam.
Well, let me be clear. This is the audience's vote. He was not on my Rushmore.
I have not seen a single edit, a single hitman,
I don't know why y'all are arguing with me. This wasn't my choice. This is you guys. How about you explain to me why Derek's on this list? Explain it. Go on. You guys have the floor. All right. Which leads us to the number 2 pick, which was Vanessa Russo. I have found that Vanessa does extremely well on polls. Whenever we do, returning player things or, best single games or best games in general, Vanessa always, overperforms. And I think Vanessa being on this list is totally fine. I think Vanessa could take Cody's spot, could take Tyler's spot. Season 17 was Vanessa's season. I think it's one of the most fun seasons of all time. She's one of the best players of all time, despite being a total mess. I said Paul would be my number 1 pick for All-Stars 3. Vanessa would be. Paul would be second. Vanessa's as fun of a player as you'll ever see. Any season you put her on, it's guaranteed to be dynamic and crazy until she's evicted. So there's Vanessa. I have no problem with her being on the list so far. Not one person overlaps with my list, which is why I think this era is so hard to rank. Nicole Franzel gets that 3rd spot. I think it's fair. She was number 1 on my list. I'm not surprised she is not number 1 here, but she earned her spot. And then Paul takes that final spot. You guys can't see, but there it is. There they are. So there's your 4. I have no problems with this. Obviously, Cody and Tyler are the snubs. Let's look at the data. So Derek wins. The margins are so thin here, y'all. Like, just look at this. Where can I go? I'm going to go here. Hi. Derek has 54.5%. Cody is at 27%. Not that close. Really, it's a clear top 3 between Derek, Nicole, Vanessa. And then that 4th spot is very up for grabs. Paul edges out Tyler, who edges out Cody. James with 3. Hey, shout out to the James Hewling fans. Shout out to the Hewling family. James Hewling, he was definitely the last person I put on the list. I think Josh deserves a bit more love than 11 votes, but, he was never going to make it. Zach Rance, people insisted I put him on. He got him a nice 30. Poor Devon. Devon in any other era, I think, makes Mount Rushmore, but, she's not even... I don't even know if she makes the 2nd Mount Rushmore here. It's just a stacked era. But yeah, Devon was right in the mix. She beats out Cody. So. I think this was the most interesting vote by far. So interesting to me that Derek is so clearly ahead of Cody for everyone. All right. The modern era. For the purposes of this stream, the modern era is season 23 to the present. I guess Reindeer Games too, if you want to count it. I don't care. I think there's a limited number of people for this amount of seasons. First of all, there's not that many seasons here, so obviously there's going to be less viable options. But just in general, I don't think these past few seasons have created a ton of iconic characters. I think 26, not one of my favorite seasons, probably accomplished that the best. But outside of that, I think these seasons have been a bit sparse in terms of icons. But the first person on my list, I think, is genuinely a no-brainer. It's Taylor. There's no 2-time players on this in this era. And Taylor is probably the most iconic winner of Big Brother we've had since maybe Derek, if you don't count Derek, Dan. So... just, this was unambiguous. Taylor was always going to be the first name on this list. Then I put Chelsea. 26, I think, is the most beloved season from this era. She played the most dominant game of this era. I think she's an underrated character on the show. On the feed, she was gaming very actively in a season where no one was gaming actively, which gave me a fondness for her. But again, there's not a ton of people to choose from here. You could argue maybe a Tucker or Angela should take the spot for BB26, but I just think, for me and what I prefer, Chelsea is so much better. You know what I mean? Next up is Tiffany. I think cookout representation needs to be here. And I think between Tiffany and Xavier, it's really not that close for me. Great character, excellent player. There's just not much to criticize about Tiffany. These 3 were very easy. And I actually found the 4th name to be quite easy as well. I went with Rachel. For me, this debate was very clearly between Rachel and Suri. I think Suri and Jag kind of split BB25 in terms of who is the main character, who is dominating. Rachel obviously was the main character of BB27, and I think the nature in which Rachel was taken out of the game, it's Rachel gets penalized less for that than Suri for the back half of her game. You know what I mean? I think Rachel made this season what it was. I think while Rachel was here, this was not a top tier season, but it was a great season. For me, it would have been top 10 easily, maybe pushing top 7 if the season just stayed its course. Instead, here we are. Vince's HOH. But I think Rachel is a pretty easy addition here. I didn't have a ton of difficulty making this call. But let's see if you guys agree. Modern era. All right. Some things are pretty obvious. Rachel got the second place votes, which I thought was very interesting. Maybe a bit of recency bias, maybe a bit of queen stays queen, but, I don't have a problem. Chelsea gets third. Tiffany gets fourth. Same group, slightly different order. Let's see if it was at all close. Well, Taylor got 77% of the vote, so Taylor was on the list no matter what. Rachel clears 58%. Tiffany gets 47. Chelsea gets 41. The next closest is Angela at 24. There was a top four here. There was Mount Rushmore, and then there was the people who were not on Mount Rushmore. There was not a clear fifth. Why wasn't Michael on the poll? I don't think Michael belongs in this poll with these people here. Personally. I mean, I think he's probably the first name off the list. But he wouldn't get on. I'm surprised that not Tucker, not for me, but for the public. This is a Twitter poll, so. And say what you will about Tucker, he's one of the more iconic players in recent history. He genuinely changed the course of Big Brother history with how he played. Obviously, I think for the worst, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. Jag, the 17 Jaggernauts, shoutouts. That was me with my 17 submissions. Maybe next time. Jag is an underrated. I think Jag does have an underrated game only because people think he's played the worst game of all time. I don't think he played a great game. Arguably not a good. I don't think he played a good game. I think he played a fine game. But I think people act like he played the worst game ever, But it's not great. This is interesting. All right. One-time characters. This was by far the most wide open field. Someone did let me know that I accidentally included Keisha as a one-time player. And to that person, Katie, I say, I was right. Maybe it wasn't even Katie who said it. Keisha's a one-time player in my mind. But anyways, let's see who I selected as my one-time character, the first member of Mount Rushmore. Vanessa. Yeah. I don't know. Vanessa's only a one-time player because Vanessa chose to be a one-time player. But again, plop her on any season. That season instantly becomes a must-see TV until she's evicted. I don't think there's much more that needs to be said there. Donnie is my number 2. This archetype's a dangerous archetype. The lock for AFP, hillbilly, simple guy, Donnie's the best version of this. Genuinely one of the most likable people in the Big Brother community. One of the biggest underdogs in Big Brother history, especially in the context of BB16, where it was just such a massive, dominant majority alliance. There was very few players I enjoyed rooting for more than Donnie. And hopefully we get to see Donnie on reality TV in some capacity. I think he'd be a good traders pick. I think he'd be very fun. So shout outs to Donnie. Just a dope guy. Then I go Felicia. Gotta get some BB25 representation in there. We haven't had anyone on anything. I think you could argue Izzy, just not there enough for me. I think what a lot of people love about Angela, I also love about Angela, but I love more about Felicia. This is just an archetype that doesn't get cast very often, and every time they do get cast, they're awesome. So they got to keep doing this shit. I don't know if there's, much more to say about Felicia. Felicia over Rennie is recency bias. Maybe. I put Michelle Costa there, so it's not all recency bias. I like BB10. Felicia versus Rennie, I don't care. They're both awesome. I think Rennie's great, but Felicia for me is just the rabidness with which she gamed is I think what makes Felicia an elite character for me. The length she was willing to go to. She was not a great player, but she was a very active player and a very fun player. Rennie was playing too, but in a very different way. And her tomato farming on Chat BCC is hilarious. And then I have Michelle Costa, who, take your pick, BB10 has 5 different people you could put on this list, genuinely. I just think Michelle is such a firecracker. Met her in person, she's delightful. A really fun underdog, even though in this season you're kind of rooting against the underdog because most people are rooting for Dan. But I think her scene with Dan when she's in jury and Dan gets the reward to hang out with her for a while, super endearing. I just found Michelle so likable and such a fun version of a villain. You know what I mean? I think you're meant to not root for Michelle, but I couldn't help but root for her. But you can pick whoever you want from BB10. I think someone's got to be on this, though. So there's no way we're going to have the same list, right? I mean, this is a poll with about, 50 names. Let's see how much overlap there is. Vanessa. That one felt obvious. Then Angela gets the second most votes. Maybe recency bias, but I think Angela could get on here just by her own merit. Genuinely just a cracked out person. So fun. Had probably the most iconic moments of anyone on this list. I think what goes against Angela for me is just that, a lot of her big moments were in the first half of the season, and then she's there for a lot longer, and people don't remember, Angela really kind of, doesn't fall off in the second half of the season, but, there's just less to do when there's less people in there. Less people for her to be fighting with. But Angela's a once-in-a-lifetime character. Absolute icon, and I have no problem with her being here. Rancy Pants. I'm surprised he's only third on this list. I think in terms of, how big were they at their peak, Zach might be number one. BB16 is probably the most famous season of the show. Maybe Big Brother 2 beats that. But Zach is the biggest character from that season. He's genuinely insane. I think he's definitely more of an episodes kind of character than a feeds kind of character, as far as I understand. For me, BB16 representation, I would put Devin Shepard on. But I don't have a problem with Zach. I mean, one of the best confessionalists the show's ever seen. I think he has the best confessional of all time. With just give him the fucking money already. Iconic. Great speeches. Won some comps. I think Zach earned this spot several times over. And then Felicia does grab the fourth spot. So shout outs Felicia. Shout outs. We've already talked about her. We don't got to go into it again. And here's the data. Vanessa is the only one who clears 50%. The next highest is Angela at 38. So Vanessa's on a different level compared to these people. I almost didn't want to include her in this category because, it's a foregone conclusion, but, she counts. Close to making the list, Rennie was number 5, very fairly. Matt Hoffman was in the mix, 23%. Tucker, 20%. Who got 0 votes? Cappy got 2 votes. Josh got 1. Damn, I don't know why Cappy got more votes than Josh. A lot of Josh haters, tell you that much. Keanu, he got some votes, 13%. Christy was the last second edition. Shouldn't have been. Danielle Murphys didn't get the love I was expecting. Monica got some votes. Libra got some votes. Donnie obviously got some votes. Devin, only 11 votes, is diabolical. Devin was my first cut. Devin was number 5. So, Cappy's vote came from Yvette. It's likely. A lot of charisma Matt had. Why are you speaking like Yoda? Wish Lisa or Amy had gotten on here. I think Amy, I could see, but she wouldn't have gotten votes. Raven, 36 votes. She got more than Brett. No, 1 less than Brett. Kind of rough. Jason being snubbed from the ballot is diabolical. Jason's just a weird, middle ground between, he's a really good player and he's a good character. He probably should have been on this ballot, but, it's okay. Mr. Spectacular was a 2-time player. Thank you, JPR, for the gift. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Is Kevin O'Connell a good coach? Yeah. Yeah. Winning that many games with those quarterbacks? Yeah, he's good. All right, let's talk about the all-time women. All right. Girly Pops, who do we got? The first name on my list, not a very difficult name. Rachel O'Reilly. Coming on BB27, being the star of the show, being evicted the way she was evicted, or eliminated the way she was eliminated. She's the only woman who truly spans the eras in such an effective way. Obviously, Janelle played before her and still played in 22, but Janelle's seasons 14 and 22 just aren't that substantial, whatever word you want to use. Whereas Rachel, BB12, one of the most iconic characters of all time. BB13, she wins. BB27, star of the show. Easiest name on this list, not a question. Janelle's number 2. Say what you will, Janelle's the queen of Big Brother. Now, Rachel's the queen, Janelle's something else. Janelle's princess, is that what I feel like she had the shirt that said princess all the time. She's great. There's some players who have much more impressive resumes, gameplay-wise, and winners and stuff. Janelle's always going to be Janelle. So, I don't think this is controversial. I think this is a pretty obvious choice. Number 3 for me was also easy. I mean, the best woman to ever play the game. She's played 3 seasons, holds the record for the most number of days in the house. She's kind of a 2-time winner in some ways. Just winning reindeer games does add to her legacy. I think this is a very easy top 3 for me. I think the top 2 was easy, but I think Nicole is a clear third. Vanessa, Danielle, and Chelsea are all better players. I would not give you Danielle. Danielle, I think, is ridiculous. I think Chelsea, I wouldn't give you either. Vanessa, Vanessa and Chelsea, you can make the case. Danielle, I don't think you can give it to Danielle. I mean, Danielle is just... I think Big Brother 3 is a whole different beast, and then on All-Stars, it really wasn't that impressive. And, Nicole's got her issues, but I think the level of consistency that Nicole has is extremely impressive. And Chelsea, it's not her fault. She needs to play again. She's going against people with much bigger resumes, so. And she'll play again, I'm sure. Next returning player season, as long as she's up for it, I'm sure she'll be asked. So, I'm optimistic we will get that opportunity. Now, this 4th spot for me was a battle for the ages between 2 names. For me, there are 2 people on this list who deserve this 4th spot, and there's only room for one of them. Those people are Danielle and Taylor. Now with Danielle. At the end of the day, I think Danielle is just such an important figure in Big Brother history in terms of the development of strategy. She obviously has 2 deep runs. She comes back on reindeer games and produces some of the best drama we've had in modern Big Brother in a long time. But I just think comparing Taylor's, season 24 and reindeer games to Danielle's legacy spanning so many years it just gives Danielle an edge. Obviously, Danielle is the superior player. She's one of the better women to ever play the game. I think she's top 5, clearly. There's a lot of people who, brutal omissions, like Brittany Haynes has a case, Davon has a case, Vanessa has a case, Taylor, of course, has a case, Chelsea has a case, Jordan even has a case. I just think Danielle, for me and what I value in Big Brother, gets that 4th spot. Taylor was my 5th. I will say that. Let's see if you all agree. Rachel's the number 1 vote. Pretty unambiguous. Danielle gets number 2. This was shocking to me. I know Danielle's, liked on Twitter. I thought she definitely had a good shot at getting on the mountain. Number 2 was very surprising to me. What are you going to do? Hey, there you go. Danielle Reyes. Number 3 is Janelle. So, a bit of a snub. Janelle getting 3rd instead of 2nd. Kind of rough. And this 4th spot is Taylor. So I have no problem with this. I think this is fine. Obviously, this list excluded Nicole, which I understand. I think I hold Nicole to a higher esteem than most others. But I don't think you can really go wrong with these 4. This is totally fine. Janelle getting 3rd, Mira's replacement. Damn. That's deep. Taylor over Nicole and Brittany is wild. I don't think it's that wild. Taylor's the most iconic winner we've had in such a long time. She's the new face of the show. She's on Unlocked. She's on Ranked. Like, she's carved out her own legacy. Are these not purely based on game? No. Game is a very, very small factor. It's not insignificant. It's just much smaller than, like, iconicness and influence and stuff like that. Okay. Let's look at the data. So, Rachel with 80... okay. Rachel O'Reilly with 82% of the vote. Pretty good. Taylor with 51 gets that 4th spot. We got 65 with Danielle and 60 with Janelle. The cut was Brittany, was that number 5 spot. Nicole, number 6. Vanessa, number 7. I think these are the right 7. Someone wrote in Cory Wertenberger. Much respect. So there you go. No problems here. Shout out to Tiffany, Davon. They got some votes. A couple votes for June. 29%, actually. June is up there. Okay. All-time men. All right. It's time for the boys. The boys are back in town. For me, do we even have to talk about number 1 and 2? All right. I still think these are the 2 biggest figures in Big Brother history. Nothing's going to change that unless Rachel comes back again and wins. You know what I mean? Like, that's tough. Now, these final 2 spots were diabolical to fill. Genuinely, I had such a hard time picking these last 2 spots. This may seem a little bit inconsistent with how I did my previous rankings, but at number 3, I had Derek. While I didn't have Derek on the Rushmore for the era, 16 through 22, I think all time in the grand scheme of Big Brother, Derek is the 3rd most influential man. While Cody and Tyler and Paul, they have extra data for that range of seasons, you zoom out, Derek is still the biggest name. Derek would be the biggest deal to be brought back. Derek's the one on Traitors. Like, I think Derek more than earns this spot on the mountain. Not to mention, he's still so much in the mythos. He's on Unlocked. He's got a podcast. You know, he's still around. He's been teasing returning to the show a lot on Unlocked. I think it will happen in some capacity at some point. And I think it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, Derek's a weird player, but like we only saw him play one kind of game. And I'd be interested in seeing him do it again. Or see him play in a position of adversity. Maybe he'd suck. That'd be interesting. Stealth. All right. Number 4, I mean, again, we're talking is a really tough one. Really, for me, it was between Tyler and Cody. And I went with Cody. I've already made this argument, but I think Cody's a pantheon player, top. For me, Cody's the 2nd best player of all time. Take that for what it is. Wins an all-star season. Part of the 3rd most iconic alliance of all time. I think Tyler has 2 seasons, one of which was terrible. Cody has 2 seasons. Both were iconic in different ways. In 16, he's part of the most iconic alliance. Not the most iconic, one of the most. And then in 22, he plays one of the best games ever. Not to mention it's All-Stars too. So that should carry some weight in my mind. Let's see if you guys agree. Dan, Will, okay. His 3rd spot's interesting. Still Derek, okay. If y'all put Cody, we have finally linked up. Finally, we'd have something in common. Let's see it, Tyler. At the end of the day, it was between Tyler and Cody. So I don't have a problem with this. Tyler's a big deal. Yeah. We talked at length about Mr. Crispin. Quite the talented player. So, good for him. Andy needs more love, seriously. He's on a really rough season. He's only played once. I think it makes sense for him to be where he is. The data, I mean, Dan and Will, 85 and 77% of the vote, respectively. Pretty impressive. 41% is Derek Levasseur, And then it's very tight between Tyler, Cody, and Kaser for that fourth spot. Shout outs to Kaser getting that many votes. Obviously, Andy in the mix as well. The loser in this one is Big Jeff. Very sad. Big day for the Big Mosquito. So there you go. Now we go to the main event, what we've all been waiting for. All-time Mount Rushmore. Stripping away every factor. Who's the 4 people who deserve to be on this mountain? For me, the best player of all time, the face of Big Brother to this day. You know, whenever he calls CBS, they'll put him on the show. They'll give him the biggest stipend ever. Mr. Dan Giesling. What are you going to do? There's not, For me, the godfather of the show, founding father, perhaps, as well. One of the best players of all time, Dr. Will. Made the show what it was. I don't know if the show's still on the air if Dr. Will is not there in season 2. Not to mention, he's the reason season 7, in my opinion, is the best season of Big Brother ever. Now it gets a little tricky. For me, this is actually a very easy list to make. Rachel. I'm going to just announce my number 4 too. I think this is such an easy top 4. I think it's really not close. I mean, Dan and Will are, I think, the 2 most iconic players in the show's history. Rachel, I think, was on the cusp of Mount Rushmore before 27, and 27 has only, for me, made her surpass Janelle. And then Janelle, look, she didn't have a good appearance in 14 or 22, but she still played 4 seasons of the show. And season 6 and 7, she's probably the best underdog in the show's history. Potentially the best character in the show's history. I mean, her and Rachel are fighting for that spot. So I thought this was a very, very easy top 4. I think number 5 for me is probably like Nicole, maybe. But I think there's a huge gap. Like a huge, huge gap. Taylor's probably close. Danielle's kind of close. But I think Nicole would be my first snub. How is Cody or Derek not on there? Derek only played once. Will played twice, had 2 incredible games. Dan played twice, had 2 incredible games. Rachel played 3 times. We know that story. It's just Derek doesn't have enough here, and Cody on 16 didn't do enough. Not to mention 22 is kind of a hated season. Not his fault, but, what are you going to do? At the end of the day, like, Dan was on seasons 10 and 14, 2 of the most beloved seasons of the show ever. Will was on season 2 and 7. 2, the first season of the show, one of the most iconic. 7, best season of the show, in my opinion. Rachel, it's a bit of an exception. 12, 13, 27 are kind of weird seasons to evaluate, but she's the star of all of them. And then Janelle, seasons 6 and 7 and 14, 3 of the best seasons ever. 22, she's barely even on, so. All time, I'm just going to burn through it. We did it, y'all. Same order, same people. And I'm going to just show you guys it wasn't fucking close. Dan gets 77, Dan gets 80%, Will gets 77, Rachel gets 76, Janelle with 48, and even Janelle's 48 clears Danielle by about 10%. So this is an obvious Mount Rushmore. I feel happy because after this entire season, this entire stream, I feel like I can confidently say we know who's on Big Brother's Mount Rushmore. I think it's established. It's Dan, Will, Janelle, and Rachel. Interesting how much Jeff's fallen off over the years. I think if you do this poll on Facebook, he wins. Genuinely. Like, I think Big Jeff wins the Facebook poll right now. I think if it was Facebook, it would be like Will, Jeff. I think Dan still gets there. And then I don't know. Allison over Paul? Shout out to Allison. Look, the Allison fans love Allison. Give them that. Oh, no. So, okay. I'm stupid. I put Paul twice. This Paul got 1 vote. This Paul got 12% of the vote. I screwed this up. Also, I forgot to put Taylor on this list. That's my bad. Taylor would not have made the top 4. She probably would have been like 7th or 8th. Like, she was consistently below Danielle in all these polls. So, like, it's not like it screwed up anything, but Taylor would have been in the mix for sure. Facebook might pick Paul. Maybe. Tyler would have a great shot, too. Taylor was top 6 in the RHAP poll. Yes, but, like, she probably would still be, like, top 6 or 7. She would just be behind Danielle. Like, in every poll we did, she was behind Danielle. So, like, she wouldn't have made the mountain, but she would have been up there. Derek and Cody with 21 and 12% of the vote. They weren't even close. 6-7. Okay. Well, that'll do it. That's the stream. A low-key, a high-effort stream from Cory Wertenberger. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? These are kind of sporadic, me putting a ton of effort into a stream just because law school, like, it's just a lot to have on my plate. But this is fun. I had a good time doing it. Thanks you all for filling it out. Thank you guys for hanging out as well. Life and update tomorrow with Taryn? No, but check perhaps some other days near that date. Don't forget to have America show you that thing she wanted to show you. You're a real one. America said she had already forgotten. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. I will say, Patreon-wise, I don't know exactly what we're going to upload this weekend, but I do know what rewatch we're doing next. We're going to keep watching Glee because it's just been fun. It's easy to watch. We'll keep watching Glee and just kind of stop when we feel like stopping. But the next rewatch, we're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to upload it, but it is Big Brother Canada 5. I just don't think the genius, like I looked at the views, it just didn't have the interest. And I don't think America was super interested, so I just think it's a waste of time. It is Big Brother Canada 5. I understand maybe it makes sense to watch some other seasons before 5. Let's watch the good ones while we got them. Who knows if the Patreon exists in 2 years by the time we could get to BB Can 5, so let's do it now. So again, I don't want to get y'all too excited. I don't know when we're going to record, but it's going to be BB Can 5. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, is anyone live for me to raid? Is Quinn hanging out? Quinn's live? All right. Say hi to Quinn. Ask Quinn who's on his Big Brother Mount Rushmore. Whole weeks in one upload. Yeah, we're planning on doing it. It probably won't be in one sitting, which doesn't affect you guys, but I think it's the only way to really do it. All right. Send Quinn some love, the homie. Bye, y'all.